The High Court of London is a place for evidence, not performance art, but try telling that to Prince Harry. As the Duke of Sussex took the stand this week to deliver a trembling, tear-filled testimony about the unbearable misery his wife, Meghan Markle, has endured at the hands of the media, the world didn't reach for their tissues, they reached for the remote. On the latest episode of Saturday Night Live, Weekend Update, co-anchor Colin Jost delivered a comedic execution so precise it shattered the Sussexes' carefully constructed shield of victimhood. With a sharp, spare me, she made herself a misery, Jost didn't just land a joke. He articulated the global exhaustion with a couple who has turned self-pity into a multi-million-dollar industry. While Harry is reportedly furious that his heartfelt, pity me, tears have become a punchline, the reality is even harsher. The controversy surrounding Meghan Markle has finally transitioned from drama to high-grade comedy. The anatomy of a late-night takedown. Colin Jost's roast was particularly devastating because it targeted the core of the Harry and Meghan brand, the narrative of the persecuted princess. When Harry sat in that witness box, his voice cracking as he detailed Meghan's suffering, he expected the world to gasp in horror. Instead, Jost's quip, "Spare me," became the viral mantra of the week. By mocking Harry's book title while simultaneously dismissing Meghan's misery as self-inflicted, Jost highlighted the fundamental irony of the Sussexes' existence. They are a couple who moved to America for privacy, only to launch a Netflix docuseries, a tell-all memoir, and a lifestyle brand. Critically speaking, the misery Harry described in court isn't a byproduct of the press. It is the natural consequence of a woman who has systematically alienated her family, her in-laws, and now, the American public. Jost's laughter wasn't just a joke. It was a validation of the sentiment that Meghan Markle is the architect of her own isolation, architect of her own demise. The controversy surrounding Meghan has always centered on her perceived lack of accountability. In Harry's courtroom narrative, Meghan is a passive victim of a cruel system. In reality, Meghan Markle is a highly calculated operator who has spent years chasing the very spotlight she now claims burns her. Jost's roast tapped into this hypocrisy. Why should the public sympathize with the misery of a woman living in a 16-bathroom mansion in Montecito while trashing the grandmother of her husband on global television? By portraying Meghan as the controversial one, Jost's monologue hit on a hard truth. Her misery is a brand requirement. Without the narrative of being a victim, Meghan Markle becomes just another wealthy celebrity with a failing podcast. The tears Harry shed in court weren't just for Meghan. They were for the survival of their victim business model. However, as Jost pointed out with his trademark smirk, that model has a shelf life. You can only complain about the paparazzi you called for so long before the public starts to see the strings on the puppet. The validity of the "spare me" sentiment. The title of this saga, "Spare Me," is more than just a pun on Harry's book. It is a validated critique of the Sussexes' current standing in 2026. The reputation gap. While Harry is in London crying about the past, the rest of the world is dealing with real-world crises. The sight of a prince weeping over mean headlines in a 20-year-old newspaper is increasingly seen as out of touch. The self-made misery. Critics argue that Meghan's misery began the moment she realized that the royal family wasn't a Hollywood PR firm. Her controversy stems from her refusal to play a supporting role, and her misery is the frustration of someone who couldn't rewrite the rules of a 1,000-year-old institution. Harry is reportedly enraged because Jost's roast. A prince can be a villain or a hero, but he can never be a joke. By making fun of Harry's "pity me" tears, SNL has officially signaled that the Sussexes have lost the cultural war. They are no longer figures of sympathy. They are figures of satire. The high cost of the pity brand. Meghan's misery, as described by Harry, is a direct result of her controversial decision to go to war with the British establishment. You cannot throw a grenade at a palace and then complain about the smoke. The furious reaction from the Montecito camp suggests that Jost's words hit a nerve because they are true. Meghan didn't just encounter misery, she made herself a misery by choosing conflict over duty and litigation over legacy. As Jost noted, the world is ready to move on. The tears in court have become a tired trope. If Harry wants to save his reputation, he needs to stop talking about Meghan's suffering and start acknowledging the role they both played in their current social exile. But for the controversial Duchess, that would mean taking off the mask of the victim, a role she seems unwilling to relinquish, no matter how many comedians roast her for it. A punchline with a pedigree. The court proceedings in London were meant to be Harry's grand stand against his enemies. Instead, they provided the raw material for Colin Jost to remind the world that the Sussexes are their own worst enemies. Harry's tears didn't win him the case in the court of public opinion. They only won him a spot in the opening monologue of a comedy show. Meghan Markle can be enraged, and Harry can be furious. But as long as they continue to sell their misery as a product, the world will continue to laugh. The curtain is falling on the Sussex melodrama, and the audience is leaving, not in tears, but in hysterics.